After spending over 15 years building a life in Australia, we decided to leave. And in this video, we're going to talk about the 10 reasons why we did that. Stick around till the end because some of these reasons might surprise you.
We are Zenesta and Nabeel, and last year we started an adult gap year with our toddler. Our goal is to simply travel and focus on creating freedom-based business and possibly find a new home for ourselves.
So let's get into it.
The first reason and the most important one is the cost of living in Australia is going out of the roof and you can feel it. But some people may say that salaries are high in Australia, but even though it's high, the cost of living, the expense is also high. So your net income is always low. Previously, when we used to go to Coles or Woolies and get some knickknacks from here and there, it would easily cost like $20, $30. But prior to leaving, you just went and bought like certain small items and then it was like $100. How is this possible? And it's really crazy.
It's no surprise that since COVID, cost of living everywhere has gone up. But in Australia, what we've noticed, you could feel the pinch. And there was even a video recently on ABC about how the competition in Australia is very low. And that's the reason why they can get away with just increasing the prices. And
they're chipping away in your salaries and your pockets.
Yeah. And also the other thing about Australia is like, if you're in Europe, right, and if you want to travel from one city to another or one country to another, it's not that bad. But in Australia, even going from Sydney to Melbourne, it's like a lot, like $1,000 for the three of us.
Yeah, because like I have friends in Melbourne. I want to go and visit them over the weekend, but I can't.
Australian people are actually very nice and polite, but we always felt, and having stayed there for 15 years, that making friends is not that easy. And that's why you would see people sort of hanging out or like people having their own bubble, and usually this bubble is based on ethnicity. This is coming from us as people who were migrants to Australia. I am not saying that we are like, crazy outgoing people always looking for friends, but we felt this being something of a blocker in Australia. Honestly, this is what I think. It's probably because in countries like USA or UK, immigration started much earlier, whereas in Australia, they only got away with white-only Australian immigration in 1970. So it's not been that long, only 50 years. We wanted to actually see and broaden our horizon in terms of friendships as well. Australia has too many rules and sometimes it feels suffocating. Rules are there for a reason, it's a good thing, but it's not a good thing when it's overdone. Simple traffic infringements or, parking fines, it's just through the roof. And some people might say, oh, then you should just follow the rules. Trust me, we are both migrants.
We follow
the rules, right? Even if you follow the rules, you live normally. You can't live like a robot, right? Like even if you live normally, you do a few things here, a few things there. There is no respite. You will end up spending a lot of money and losing points.
Also in Australia, shops closes at 5. Now, if you're doing a 9-to-5 job, when are you going to do your shopping or any other activities that you want to do? You really don't have time, and then you're left with weekends. The weekend is not for you anymore because then you have to do all these household chores, buy all this thing, attend all these events outside. It's like you don't have any time for yourself at all.
That's right. Too many rules can overkill it.
Oh my God. Once the COVID situation relaxed, we were to go back to our workplace. It takes so much time on road. Like when we went back to work, it takes about 3 hours from door to door. It was just driving us crazy. The public transport system is not one of the best here in Australia. I have to be honest with that. It's not frequent. Over the weekend, you literally can't go anywhere without your car because it's much more infrequent.
It keeps getting worse as you go out of the metro area.
And I think this came glaring down on us more as we're traveling all throughout Southeast Asia, is that the public transport system here is so agile and so flexible.
Either way, like even if you're not using public transport, you would need a car. And a car means
in Australia, you would need a car,
Yeah, and a car means more expenses like fuel, depreciation, tolls. Like, man, there's so much money we have to spend on tolls, especially if you're living out in the suburbs. For us, what we realized is that there is no point in spending so much downtime on the road. One of the most valuable aspects of life is time. You can make more money, you can do a whole bunch of other stuff, but you can't make more time. It's just the way of life, is that you've got to spend a lot of time on the road.
Some of you would say that don't stay far away, stay in the city. But in city, that's another thing to talk about. property prices are out of control. We got into property market in 2016 and we bought a house 50 kilometers away from the city. That's because we couldn't afford anything much more closer. I feel very sad and bad for people who really don't have any chance to go in. I don't know how we got in. We got in by luck, but we did. But with that comes other expenses. Now that you have a house in suburban area, there's council rates, maintenance, and all sort of stuff that we never anticipated at all.
And a reference point, baby boomers got in the property market better. So it was around 13 to 14% of their overall household income used to go to mortgages. But today, for us, people like us millennials, we're spending close to 25%. So as you can understand, a huge chunk of your money will be going into the financing your property. By the way, we still haven't sold our property. We've rented it out. We intend to keep it as an asset.
Some people may say that the money that we're spending here doing our gap year, you're better off getting another second property. But we found that putting that money on ourselves and improving ourselves is much more valuable.
Yeah, we just felt like that's what we wanted to do. For us, investing in another property didn't seem as attractive, even if the financial outcomes might be better than what we're doing right now. But we just felt we needed to do this for us and our future. When we left Australia, our daughter was 3.5 years old. When we planned for our future with schooling and everything, one of the things that made us a little uncomfortable is what's been happening in the US and the UK in terms of the curriculum. And we knew that that's gonna happen in Australia as well.
We feel Australia somehow follows US and UK.
And to some extent, we know that it's already started in some Australian schools as well. We just feel the things that are being taught now, it's very much a trial and error. And we also feel like some of these content
is not applicable to their age at all.
Absolutely. It's almost like you're taking their innocence away, right? So that's one thing we just felt very, very uncomfortable with. Had we understood that, this is being taught at an age where they can understand what's been happening around the world, we would be okay with that, I suppose, but not really at this age.
But mind you, we still don't have answer. We are trying to find answers for it. And that's why we want to explore elsewhere too.
We've been sending our daughter to international preschools here in Southeast Asia. They're allowing her to be a child. They're allowing her to be a child, and she's interacting with kids from all different nationalities, and that's one of the things that why we've seen so much growth in her. Right, so this is more on us. We actually personally both at the same time became disillusioned by corporate life. We just felt like no matter how much you're trying, there was this invisible ceiling that we couldn't sort of topple. It's not through a lack of trying. We did try, but it just wasn't working for us. We didn't feel like we were growing. And also what broke the camel's back for us in particular was after COVID, employers started pushing to go back into the office. Now, it's all well and good to go back into the office, a few days a week, if you're living close to the office. But for us, we were living 50 kilometers away from the city, from our offices. So as we said previously, back and forth, 3 hours.
It's just not feasible at all.
Yeah, especially once you've gotten the taste of working from home and the flexibility around it, it just felt such a waste.
And mind you, employers can give a lot of reasons.
Most reasons were around you work better when you go into the office because you meet other people and all of these sort of stuff.
Sure, there is. But the other thing is that I don't know if they feel if you are working on your job or not, or you're doing something else. But when I worked from home, I worked more than 9 to 5 hours.
Again, it's their choice. They're employing us, they're giving us the money. But we also made the choice that we didn't want to do this.
Correct, but it just doesn't work for us anymore.
So Australia is a welfare state, right? And that basically means that there is a progressive taxation system which allows for free healthcare and free education, which we like, and it's a great thing. But when almost 50% of your salary is going and you don't see immediate benefits, in the 15 years, only thing that we actually were able to get back was when we had our daughter in a public hospital. That was really the only thing that I can remember, because it pinches and you sort of feel like, what am I getting back in return? There's a lot of invisible things that you do, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about things that we can see, better transportation, better road network and things like that. We just felt like we weren't seeing our money being utilized.
And also the other thing is that every individuals like you, me, everyone else, we want to do better in life. We want to earn more income.
The more money you make, the more you're taxed.
The more you will be taxed.
We just felt like there are other opportunities out there in the world where the taxation potentially be better.
Yeah, and we just want to explore that. I love Australia, but Australia is also a very geographically isolated country. If you were to travel from Australia to any other country, it would take hours. The nearest one being in New Zealand, right?
Yeah, New Zealand and Fiji, which is just 4 hours. Singapore is 8 hours away. And if you go to Europe or North America, you're supposed to probably spending 3 days just back and forth.
Back and forth. And like when I see my friends who live in Europe and my family lives in Canada and they could just go 1 hour, 2 hour over the weekend, that just makes me jealous. And we are individuals who love to travel a bit, like explore different countries and culture and food. Also, it's very expensive. It's not cheap at all.
It's all demand and supply, right? Like Australia just has a population of 20 something million people. So yeah, not a lot of flights going out.
Yeah, so we wanted to be placed in a location, in a hub where it's easy for us to travel. That's why we chose to be in Southeast Asia for this whole gap year. And I'm enjoying it. Okay, the most important question of all. Do we work to live or we live to work? In Australia, because the expenses were so high and you just have to go on and do what you need to do to maintain all the expenses, run your household, we were living a life of autopilot for a very, very long time. And it was not a good feeling at all.
And even though we didn't realize it on the surface, it was internally impacting us.
Like it affected in all areas of our life. Mindset, health, our relationship with each other, other people, even as parenting, it just bogs down on you a lot.
It's almost like you're in a loop, right? Because you work 5 days a week, you are traveling a lot, so you don't really have a lot of time once you come back home. The expenses are such, it doesn't allow you to explore too much. And then on the weekend, because everything closes at 5, you have to do stuff on the weekend. You have to live so far away. That's why you've got to get a bigger house in the suburb, and that comes with a lot of household chores. So living a life on autopilot, it's prime for it.
When I reflect back, okay, 10 years down the line, if I keep on doing the same job and staying here, would I be happy? I would definitely not be happy. And that was like a trigger point, a turning point for us that like, no, if we don't want that, then what's the point in doing this thing? This gap year is exactly our different why we want to change. We want to live a life at our own terms, do things that we like, earn an income, a freedom-based income through online businesses. And that's what we are pursuing through this gap year, where we get the time to work on that. So there you have it. Those are the 10 reasons why we left Australia. So does that mean Australia is a bad country to live?
Absolutely not. In fact, Australia has been so great to us. I mean, today where we are is because of that country and what it has given us.
Correct. Australia has allowed us to be in a position where we can do this gap year. Really.
Exactly. And if you think about it, for us particularly, all of these reasons that we talked about, it's the reasons for us that didn't align to us anymore. But that doesn't mean that, Australia is a bad country. In fact, there are some cities in Australia that regularly rank in the top most livable cities in the world. Yeah. Australia is very safe. It's got good systems. There's great weather. Some of the best
beaches in the world.
Although we're not really beach people, but still. And being a welfare state, it does provide free healthcare and education, which I know that it's a big problem in the US. So that's something that, is a great thing about Australia. But, the world is big and life is short. So it's important to go, you feel where you're treated the best. You feel where your money is going further. And we just felt like that wasn't the case for us in Australia anymore.
And we're very fortunate to have migrated from Bangladesh to Australia. That doesn't mean that you have to stay in Australia the whole time. You could explore other places, other countries, and then you can come back to or not come back.
Absolutely.
It's upon you.
We recently created a guide, a comprehensive guide, which gives a really nice overview as to how we created and designed an adult gap year. I wish that there was some kind of guide like this when we started, because we had to sort of do everything from scratch. So we've created this. It's for free. All you need to do is go in the link in our description, get it, and hopefully that will start getting you thinking about if that's something you want to do as well. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.
Bye.